See you.
All left to the couch.
All right, so we are live on YouTube, and I'm turning the mic over to you, Robert, Bob, and Sharon, and Cherie. The mic is all yours.
Okay. Kindle
Hi,
books.
Cherie. Hi, I was in the other room. Hi,
Oh, that's
everyone.
all right. I saw your name up there. So
Yeah, and I have Gail and Rico and Steve and Brooklyn and Rafi and Lynn and Robert and Rick. Is there anybody else here yet? No. Okay, that's fine. All right, I'm going to close this right now so I don't have to be distracted by the woman's face on the board.
do you want to start with
The
the
part that I'm
prayer?
playing.
Sharon,
What? Oh, I'm
you,
sorry. What'd you say?
would you like to start with the prayer?
Yeah, do you have it? Because I get like all like confused sometimes. I know I am here to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to know what I need to do at all because he who sent me will deliver everything through me and to me. And I greet everyone with love.
Thank you. I've got a couple of announcements and then we'll get into reading. All right. So Kindle books for free today, April 7th, and on these Tuesdays, the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th. And if you are interested in getting these free, write down the name if you cannot get access to the chat. The chat list over there. So the lifelong learning process. The second is awakening the soul, 12. And the next is awakening the soul, 5, revised. Or you can search free Kindle books by Robert D. Sears, and you can scroll down on Amazon and find them and order them and get them for free. Pass the word, etc., to friends, family, anyone you want to bless with thoughts from ACIM. New release, the lifelong learning process. Everything you ever wanted to know and some you wish you didn't. What if everything you think you've learned isn't the end of learning at all? This new book explores the journey from what we think we know to what we are finally willing to question. It looks at learning, not just at gathering information, but as a process of unlearning, reseeing, and choosing again. From everyday experiences to deeper reflections, it gently invites the reader to consider a different way of seeing the world and themselves. If you've ever found yourself asking, is there another way to look at this? This book is for you. And again, he's got the list. And we talked about doing an Amazon search, and free Kindle copies will be available for the next several Tuesdays. Just a reminder, any member or visitor to ACIM Gather should request free digital copies of any book anytime. Please don't buy copies. Just ask Robert at dinojamesbooks.com. Your love and support is enough. We now have 8 reviews, all 5 stars for the relationships book. And we had a really neat Christmas. Yes. Hello, wrong season. A great gathering with neighbors for Easter. And it was kind of interesting because Bob had brought some books to just have if people wanted them. And the conversation started growing and spreading around the table. We had about 15 or so people. And it was interesting that just all of a sudden there was no intent, but people started reading passages out of the book and then combining with other things that they were talking about. And we spent several hours just talking about things in and around and under the book. So it's exciting to see that this one, and part of it is because I got to work with it too. My comments are in there for those of you who haven't seen it yet. So, da, 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 da. Now we need to find what we're going to read today, and we've got. All right. Has anyone heard ACIM and a B-52 simulator? I didn't
No.
think so. I know I read it, but I don't think we've had it for the class. So this is a fun one that we might want to start with. Are we okay with that? Is that okay? It's fun.
Yeah.
All right. So Bob, can you pull that up? And Sharon, if you can see
Oh, I
it.
want to say that Rick put something in there. I think he said, well, I thought he wrote that he's from Canada. So can you get Kindle books, Rick?
No, they won't. They won't.
Yeah.
I guess because you're in the US, it won't allow me to have access to them.
Oh, shoot. Rick, I will send you PDF in an
Oh,
email.
wonderful.
Yeah, get your put
Thank
your
you.
Email, Rick, in
Yeah,
the
Rick, put your
I will.
email in the chat,
I
and
will.
I'll send
Yeah.
them to you in email.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right, let's see. What does anybody want to pick something, or where is okay?
We're going to start with
We're going to do this
ACIM
one.
and a B-52 simulator. What do they have in common? Can you read that, Sharon?
Yeah, I'm on my phone. I'm going to do the best I can. See what, because my computer was not trustworthy. Okay, ACIM and a B-52 simulator. What do they have in common? For those who know me, the fact that I was a pilot and flight instructor is no surprise. My license read CFI and then capital ASMEL, and in plain language, certified flight instructor, airplane single and multi-engine land. I later added gliders, which in their own quiet way, pun intended, may have taught me more than all the engines combined. But my story didn't begin there. It began in the Air Force, B-52 simulator. My first 8 hours of flight times were logged in. They didn't count toward any rating. No logbook entry, no certificate, just me, sitting in a cockpit that looked like something out of a science fiction. Instruments everywhere, gauges, switches, warning lights, alarms, 8 throttles, 8 engines, a machine so large and powerful that the idea of flying it in the real world carried a certain finality. And yet, something strange happened. It all felt intuitive. Wow, not easy, not simple, but somehow familiar. As if there was an underlying order beneath the apparent chaos, a logic that, once glimpsed, made the complexity manageable. Still, I was very glad it was a simulator, because if you make a mistake, and you didn't die. Wow, you didn't destroy a $1 billion aircraft. You didn't end a career before it began. You simply reset, reviewed, and tried again. And that to me is where the real connection to A Course in Miracles begins. The Course teaches that the world is, in a very real sense, a kind of simulator, not in the technical sense, but in purpose. It is a learning environment, a place where mistakes appear to have consequences, sometimes very painful ones. Yet, at a deeper level, nothing real is ever. Wait, what happened?
Yeah,
Did you move that? Wait a minute.
I
Flying in the. Okay.
had something. There we go.
Wait, I'm lost now. Oh, okay, there it is. Okay, trials are, but the course teaches the world is in a very sense of in a real sense a stimulator, not in the technical sense, but in purpose. Its environment, it's a learning environment, a place where mistakes appear to have consequences, sometimes very painful ones, yet at a deeper level, nothing real is ever truly harmed. Trials are but lessons that you failed to learn, presented once again. That line could just as easily have been written in flight training manual. In a simulator, if I mishandled an approach, I didn't get grabbed on how badly I failed. I got another approach. If I misread an instrument, I wasn't thrown out of the cockpit. I was shown where I missed and given another chance to see correctly. The repetition wasn't punishment, it was training. ACIM makes the same point, but applies to itself. When what we call problems, conflicts, frustrations, even suffering are not evidence of failure in the way the ego defines it. They are simply missed lessons, circling back for another.
Sharon, you're muted.
Yes.
I think we lost Sharon. You want to take a minute?
Yeah. Can everybody else hear us? Wave a hand. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So just like in that B-52 simulator, at first the cockpit overwhelms you. Too much information, too many inputs. You react instead of respond. You chase one gauge while ignoring another. You overcorrect. You get behind the aircraft. Sound familiar? That's the untrained mind. The Course would say we are out of alignment, listening to the wrong guidance system. In aviation, that might mean trusting your senses over your instruments, a dangerous mistake. In poor visibility, your body will lie to you. It will tell you that you're level when you're in a bank. It will tell you you're climbing when you're descending. Pilots are trained to trust the instruments, not their feelings. ACIM asks us to do something very similar.
I'm sorry.
Okay, where were we? Okay, there we go. ACIM asks us to do something very similar. It asks us to question the evidence of the world and listen instead to a quieter, more reliable voice, not the loud alarms of fear, judgment, and reaction, but the steady guidance of what it calls the Holy Spirit. In the simulator, you learn this the hard way. Ignore the instruments and things go wrong quickly. Trust them even when it feels counterintuitive and everything stabilizes. Another parallel became clear over time. Instructors don't sit there to judge you. They sit there to guide you, to point out what you're not seeing, to help you correct without condemnation. A good instructor is calm, steady, and patient. They don't panic when you make a mistake. They expect it. In fact, they rely on it because that's how you learn. ACIM presents a similar kind of teacher, one who does not punish, does not accuse, does not keep score, one who simply reinterprets what you see and offers another way to look at it. In both cases, the goal is not perfection on the first try. It's correction over time. And here's the part that took me years to appreciate. The simulator is not the real flight. It prepares you for it. ACIM takes that idea one step further and turns it inside out. It suggests that what we think is the real world is actually the training ground, a place where we are learning to see differently, think differently, respond differently, a place where fear can be replaced with clarity and reaction with understanding. And like the simulator, we are given as many attempts as we need. No one says, that's it, you failed, you're done. The lesson simply comes back around, maybe in a different form, maybe with different people, maybe in a situation that looks nothing like the last one. But at its core, it's the same lesson, asking to be learned. I think back to that young man sitting in the B-52 simulator, overwhelmed and yet strangely at home. I didn't know it then, but I was learning more than how to manage 8 engines and a complex cockpit. I was learning how to trust guidance beyond my immediate perception. I was learning that mistakes are not the end of the story. And I was learning that repetition is not failure. It is grace in disguise. If I had understood then what I am beginning to understand now, I might have approached both flying and life a little differently, with less tension, less urgency to get it right the first time, and more willingness to learn from what appears to go wrong. Whether in a B-52 simulator or in the classroom of the mind, the principle is the same. You are not being tested. You are being trained. And nothing real is at risk. Any comments?
I have my hand up. This is McKaylee.
Thank you, Michaela.
Uh, you know, that is beautiful, Robert. And I just got your book today too. And so I'm so looking forward to reading it. I like books, and I have a couple things to say. The reason I appreciate you offering it free, but I'm kind of a tactile type person and old school. And for me, books remind me that you're never alone when you read the book. You become one with it. And as a former flight attendant for the airlines for a long time, I've got quite a few years in. And we had to go through training every year. And the pilots would go through training every 6 months. And you study the crashes, right, to see what went wrong. And the ones that were more went by the book and the military type training and didn't use critical thinking skills, the aircraft many times crashed. But the pilots that were able to use critical thinking skills and think outside the box usually saved the airplane and the passengers' lives. So thank you for this story on the B-52, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. Anyone else? Okay, Bob has another
I
paragraph.
loved it because it was.
I'm sorry?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? I just want to say I enjoyed it because it was a good guide. And to compare it to a simulation, especially you were a pilot, I was thinking to myself, my God, you're one accomplished man, or, being, but you really are a pilot. And McCallie too. She's a nurse now, but she was a flight attendant, so that's great. But I can't get over your writing. Like it seems like spirit just took over in every one of the things that you write. So I just want to thank you.
And that's the secret to it. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a writer per se, but I listen and I hear ideas and I organize those ideas. And that's all I do. I'm not a writer by a long shot. Rafi, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the other things that this reminded me of is what if you don't make it, we learn by our mistakes. And once we learn by the mistake, the thing that was mistaken is dropped because you move on. The ego mind doesn't want to move on and wants to go back and say, yeah, but you see how you screwed up when you were 10? You see how you screwed up when you were 10? You see how you screwed up when you were 10? You see how you were screwed up when you were 10? And you just can't listen to that. Once you've gone through the experience and you've had the mistake and you've corrected it, you drop it and move on. And once you do that, you moved into the next level, the next area, which is we could consider that growth. And so that was another valuable lesson. The other one that I got out of this was what I've heard a lot of times from Lester Levinson is examine your thinking and correct it. And so those are two things that, thanks for the reminders. Just really great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and getting back to McCallie, McCallie, you were talking about the pilot and the critical thinking. I think that's what saved people when Sully went into the Hudson River. He didn't lose anybody. He lost both engines on takeoff and saved everybody. And I think that's why. What do you think? All right, let me go back and share again. And whoever, yes.
Did you not hear me before? Is that why you took over the Sherry,
Yes.
you
because
took
we
over the thing?
Yeah, we
hear
lost you, yeah.
They can't hear me.
We can now, but we couldn't in the middle of the story.
I was on my phone. I'm wondering if I think somebody else might want to read because it might be easier for everybody. Either I'm not doing too good with my phone and
Anybody want to try?
well, I'll read it. I can read it, but as long as right now it's clear. But if it doesn't seem clear, I'd rather pass it on. I think your work needs to be heard.
Well, if you lose it, just let us know and we'll change. So for now, why don't you take over because of the pace of writing?
Okay. Because of the pace of writing, it's hard to keep up. I'm writing faster than we can read and share the essays here. So I started gathering them into simple books. No frills, just collections of essays in one place. They all carry the same title, Awakening the Soul, with only the volume number changing. We're currently at volume 12 with enough material already written to reach volume 19. Watch for them. Today, a revised edition of volumes 5 and 12 is available free on Kindle. All others are priced at $2.99. If you enjoy these essays, this is the one way to have them all in one place. Just search Amazon. Now you have to move it up. Robert, your hand's up.
No, my hand, oh, I'm sorry. It doesn't shut off, does it? I gotta stop sharing.
Okay.
I can't share and have change my hand at the same time. I can't walk and chew gum. Okay, here we go.
Now for the essays du jour. This part isn't about what I want to say, it's about what you may need to hear. So, who would like to choose an essay to read? Take a moment and listen inward and let your inner teacher guide you to the one that feels right today. The list changes each week with new essays added and others set aside. Trust that you'll be led to exactly what you need.
Hey, give me a chance to scroll down.
Okay, so does somebody want to pick it or should I? I don't know.
These books, these are the newest.
How about you, Rico? You want to pick one? We haven't seen you in a while. It's so good to see you. I don't think he heard me. Can you hear me real well?
Yep, I can.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Who
I
could?
can.
All right.
Anybody want to pick one?
It says before I was, I am. How about that?
Oh, yeah, okay. You bet. I just gotta resize it.
Before I was, I am. This is great. I formed thee in the belly. I knew these, and before thou comes forth out of the womb, I sacrificed these, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. Jeremiah. I am not a body, I am free. There is something deeply unsettling about these ideas if we take it seriously, not poetic, not symbolic, literal. It suggests that what I am did not begin with a body, a birth certificate, or a name. It suggests that what I am was known fully, completely before anything the world calls me ever appeared. That turns everything upside down. We are taught to believe that existence begins at birth, a date, a time, a place. A body enters the world, takes a breath, and life begins. But what if that is not the beginning at all? What if that moment is not a starting point, but an appearance, a kind of arrival into form, not into existence? Because existence itself cannot begin. If something truly is, it cannot come from nothing. And if it cannot come from nothing, then it must have always been, not as a body, not as a personality, but as something prior, something unformed, something known. I knew you, not I will know you, not I came to know you, I knew you. There is no time in the statement, no progression, no development, only a quiet, absolute recognition, as if what you are has always been present in the mind that knows it. And that leads to a radical thought. What if you are not a product of the world, but a thought within the mind of God? Not a fleeting thought, not an idea that comes and goes, but a living awareness held, known, and sustained in something infinite. If that is true, then the body cannot be you. The body changes, it ages, it breaks down, it appears, and eventually disappears. It is bound by time, by space, by limitation. But the statement, I knew you, does not speak to something temporary. It speaks to something that cannot be lost. So, what is it that was known? Not your history, not your achievements, not your failures, not your opinions or your fears. None of these existed before. What was known had no story. What was known simply is. And perhaps that is the quiet truth we keep circling back to in a moment of stillness. Beneath all the noise, beneath all the roles we play, there's a sense of being that does not change, a simple awareness that does not come and go. I am. Not what I was, not what I will be. I am. This is not a statement of identity in the world. It is not I am this or I am that. The moment we add anything to it, we reduce it. We turn it into something temporary. But without anything added, it remains untouched. I am. That may be the closest we come in words to what was known before anything else appeared. And if that is true, then and if that is true, then what much of what we fear begins to loosen its grip. If I'm not a body, then the body's fate cannot define me. If I'm not the story, then the story cannot contain me. If I'm not the roles I play, then losing them cannot diminish what I am. What was known before conception is not threatened by anything that happens after it. This does not deny the world. It does not require us to withdraw from life or ignore the experiences we have, but it changes how we see them. The body becomes something we use, not something we are. The world becomes a setting, not a source. And identity shifts from something fragile to something unshakable. I knew you. What if that knowing has never stopped? What if even now, beneath every thought, every fear, every attempt to define yourself, you are still exactly as you were known then? Not improved, not diminished, not changed, simply known. And perhaps the journey we call life is not about becoming anew, but about remembering what has always been true, not achieving, not uh, carning, not proving, just remembering. Before I was anything the world could name, before I had a body, a past, or future, I was, and I am. Wait, I want to, okay. That is simple as simple can be. And I love the truth when it's so simple. I am that I am. So clear and so encouraging and written absolutely perfectly. It's just incredible what comes through you. So thank you for letting me read it. Does anybody else want to share?
It
Gail?
is incredible. The words that come, his thoughts and his words are, and the way he
I
expresses
know.
is just amazing, amazing, and a gift to everybody that reads your work, Robert. Really, I I cannot say enough. I cannot say enough. I love your words,
I
and
feel
they're
the same.
constant. They're one right after the other. It's unbelievable. Do you sleep?
No,
Not very often.
no,
Wow,
I'm
the
up
mind is
I'm
continuously
up at 2,
going.
3 o'clock in the morning.
This is all the higher mind. He's just coming through the higher mind and he's giving us like, oh my God, such incredible
Yeah,
teachings.
I
Just
mean,
beautiful.
if you think about it, the mom Sears, the personality is dumb as a post. But the mind can do anything, even use a post. Literally. Anyway, anybody want to pick another one?
Yeah, we've got lots of new ones to choose
There's
from.
somebody, Gail, do you want to read one, Gail?
Sure, I can read one. Let's see.
Pick one that you like.
Oh, I can get rid of this one.
How about trials are but lessons? Danbury and beyond.
It fits with the flying trip. Let me recite it. This happened when I was teaching in Danbury, Connecticut.
Teaching flying.
I will not figure that out real fast.
Well,
All right,
Okay.
Gail, go ahead. Thank you. Can you
Trials
share?
are but lessons, Danbury and beyond. There are moments in life that stay with you, not because of tragedy, but because of clarity. I remember one of those moments at Danbury Airport. I was between students that day and wandered up to the control tower, something I often encouraged my students to do. It helped them understand that flying is just not what happens in the cockpit. There is another perspective, another set of eyes, another layer of awareness. From that vantage point, I watched a Piper twin taxi into position and receive clearance for takeoff. Everything looked routine. The roll began normally, smooth and steady, just another departure on an ordinary day, until it wasn't. The aircraft never lifted off. It continued down the runway, through the chain link fence, and onto the highway beyond. By some miracle, no one was seriously hit, but the damage was real and immediate. Later, the cause became clear: not mechanical failure, not weather, not some catastrophic unknown. The cabin door wasn't fully closed. That was it. In an unpressurized aircraft, that's not a crisis. It's a distraction. Yes, it's noise, discomfort, and a break in expectation. But it is not a reason to panic. The correct response is simple: continue the takeoff, stay in the pattern, come back, land, fix it, and go again. But in that moment, a decision was made. The takeoff was aborted, and it was aborted too late. A small problem became a costly one, not because of the situation itself, but because of how it was perceived. And that is where the lesson begins. We often hear the line, trials are but lessons. It can sound abstract, almost too simple to take seriously. But standing in that tower, watching that sequence unfold, it was anything but abstract. The open door was not the problem. The interpretation of the open door was the problem. In that instant, the situation was judged as something that had to be fixed immediately, something unsafe, something urgent. The mind moved quickly, decisively, and incorrectly, and the result followed naturally from that judgment. How often do we do the same thing? Something comes up in our lives. A relationship shifts. A plan falls apart. A discomfort appears where we expected ease. And instead of continuing forward with awareness, we react. We abort. We decide too quickly that something is wrong and must be fixed now. But what if it isn't? What if it is simply noise? What if it is just an open door? A Course in Miracles teaches that what we call trials are not punishments, not interruptions, not evidence that something has gone wrong. They are lessons, opportunities to see differently, opportunities to choose again. In aviation, experience teaches you this over time. You learn that not every abnormality is an emergency. You learn to distinguish between what requires immediate action and what requires calm continuation. You learn to trust the process, the training, and the larger context. And if you're paying attention, you don't just learn from your own mistakes, you learn from the mistakes of others. You carry those lessons forward, not as fear, but as clarity. That is wisdom. In life, the same principle applies. but the stakes feel more personal. The ego wants every open door to mean something is wrong. It wants urgency. It wants reaction. It wants control. But the deeper lesson invites something else. Pause. Look again. Is this truly a crisis? Or is it just something unexpected? Do I need to abort? Or can I continue, stay in the pattern, and return safely when the time is right? Trials are but lessons. It is not a passive idea. It is a disciplined one. It asks us to retrain how we respond to what appears in front of us. It asks us to replace reaction with awareness. As a flight instructor, I learned that students will make mistakes, so will instructors. That is part of the process, but the goal is not perfection. The goal is learning. And if we are paying attention, truly paying attention, the same lesson does not need to repeat itself indefinitely. Once is enough. The runway of life is long, but not endless. We will all encounter our share of open doors, unexpected noise, and moments that challenge our judgment. The question is never whether these moments will come. The question is how we will see them when they do. Because in the end, it is not the event that determines the outcome. It is the decision we make about what it means.
Thank you, Gail. Comments?
Yes. Looking at it in a different way, different perspective, reacting differently. Excellent. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. We may have time for one more. Oops. I've got page breaks in here.
I love that one too, Robert.
Thank you. Oh, can I pick one?
Absolutely, do it.
No, okay. I'm gonna finish with this one.
Learning by teaching. Does someone else want to read? Otherwise, I will. Okay. Learning by teaching. For a long time, I thought learning meant listening carefully, taking notes, and trying to remember what I had been told. I attended classes, read the material, and did my best to understand, and yet something didn't quite settle. The ideas were there, but they felt just out of reach, like something I could describe, but not fully live. Then something unexpected happened. I lost my voice. At first, it felt like a limitation. Teaching, after all, had always meant speaking, explaining, answering questions in real time. Without a voice, it seemed like I had lost my ability to participate in the very process I valued. But in that quiet, something shifted. If I couldn't speak, I could still write. So I began putting thoughts on paper, not as a teacher with answers, but as a student trying to understand. Each essay became a conversation, not with an audience at first, but with myself. What do I really mean by this idea? Do I actually understand it, or have I just been repeating it? Writing forced honesty. It revealed gaps I didn't know were there. It exposed assumptions I had accepted without question. And slowly, something remarkable began to happen. Ideas that once felt abstract started to become clear, not because someone explained them to me, but because I had to explain them. That was the turning point. I didn't begin to understand by learning more. I began to understand by trying to teach. There is something about teaching that changes the entire process. It requires a different level of attention, a different level of responsibility. When you attempt to share an idea, even in writing, you meet it more directly. You can't hide behind familiarity. You either see it clearly or you don't. And if you don't, the invitation is immediate. Look again. This is where the real learning begins. In many ways, teaching is not about giving anything to someone else. It is about discovering what is already within you. The act of teaching brings it forward. It refines it. It tests it. And sometimes it dismantles it so something truer can take its place. That has been my experience. What I once thought I knew, I now see differently. Not because I became more qualified, but because I became more willing. Willing to question, willing to write, willing to be wrong, willing to start again. And perhaps most surprising of all, what felt like I lost, losing my voice, became a gift. It removed the need to perform. It removed the pressure to respond quickly. Writing gave me time to listen more carefully, to look more deeply, and to allow ideas to unfold rather than force them into place. What I could not say, I could finally begin to see. And in seeing, something was learned. This brings me to a simple but important point. You do not need permission to teach. You do not need a title, a certification, or a formal role. You do not need to stand in front of a group or call yourself an expert. Teaching can begin in the quietest way possible, with a single thought you are willing to explore and share. Write it down, not to impress, not to instruct, but to understand. Let your questions lead. Let your uncertainty be part of the process. In fact, that is where the value is. When you teach from uncertainty, you remain open. You remain a student. And that is where real learning lives. If something moves you, write about it. If something confuses you, write about that. If something challenges your thinking, explore it on the page. You may discover, as I did, that the act of expressing an idea is what allows it to become clear. And in that clarity, something shifts. Others may read your words and find value, or they may not. That part is not yours to control. What matters is that you have engaged in the process. You have taken a step beyond passive learning into active discovery. You have taught, and therefore you have learned. In the context of A Course in Miracles, this takes on even deeper meaning. The Course often reminds us that to teach is to learn, not as a slogan, but as a description of how the mind works. What we extend, we strengthen. What we share, we begin to recognize as our own. But this is not limited to any one path or system. It is a universal principle. When you give attention to an idea, when you shape it, question it, and express it, you are no longer a spectator. You are participating in your own understanding, and that changes everything. So perhaps the invitation is this: don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait until you think you know enough. Begin now. Write something small. Share a thought. Explore an idea. Not because you are certain, but because you are curious. You may find, as I did, that what begins as an attempt to teach becomes the very path by which you learn. And sometimes what appears to be a loss, even the loss of a voice, turns out to be the beginning of truly hearing what you've been trying to understand all along. Thank you. Any comments? Okay. Thank you all.
I have to share one little story before we go.
Well, I mean, as usual, his
Okay.
book, this one was that was a great essay too, the one you just read, Sherry.
Yes, it is.
And I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
It was very encouraging. It's just really nice that you're putting, I'm reading the relationship one, and it's just very. What I love about your work is that it's very simple, it's in the sense that you make your point very quickly, and it just comes right through you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Rafi.
Rafi?
Yeah.
Rafi has.
When I review and absorb the material, my mind gets very quiet. And right now I'm in a state of quiet that is unmatched. And that's simply because I'm simply absorbing the truth material. Thank you.
And that brings me to a short story. There was a guy, a great writer, got up on stage and read the 23rd Psalm. When he was done, the audience went crazy. Standing ovation. A young boy went up, pulled out his sleeve and said, "Can I share that too?" He said, "Fine." The boy recited the exact same words. When he was done, there wasn't a sound. The man was dumbfounded. The audience was in awe. And he asked the boy a question. "How did you do that?" The boy simply said, "You know the song. I know the author."
Mm. Mm.
And with that, I give it back to Lynn. Oh, wait, let's see what's in the chat. Okay.
Wow,
Oh, yes,
that
thank you. I got it. Having given and saved, absolutely. Okay, everybody, thank you for being here. And then back to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love these essays as well, and I just really appreciate all of your giving. It is a wonderful thing. So thank you all, love you all, and look forward to seeing you again on Thursday. Oh, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and stop the YouTube